This is Metallica, arguably the best, but sure the wealthiest band in the world. And I wonder, what would have remained of the bag if everyone who Metallica ripped off sued them?
Hi friends, it's Andriy Vasilenko, a big fan of Metallica and a few more bands. When I said ripped off, I meant plagiarism in its widest meaning. From actual stealing musical ideas to that dumb madness that is now happening in pop music, when lawsuits are filed for using common chord progressions. And a lot of musicians could have tried to bite off a big chunk of Metallica money if they were such a greedy copyright horse. Even though Metallica may have ripped off quite a few bands. Well, there are both legit and bullshit claims, and this is what I'll attempt to clarify in this video. What Metallica did steal and what didn't. There are several types of what people call ripping off in music, rightfully or not, such as homage. I used to say homage. When songs have references to the work of other artists or imitates their style as an act of saluting or showing respect or as a tribute, or the opposite as mocking, be it friendly or not. Gift. When a musical idea is given away by the author himself, or he gave the permission to use it, or it's been licensed. You can buy the rights on music, it's whole business. Inspired. New music is always built upon what's been before, and being inspired by favorite artists, especially if you're a young musician, is what drives it. Variation, transforming existing works with referencing to the original creator, is somewhat an ancient tradition in the arts, and sometimes musicians say that they borrowed an idea. Common pattern. As Adam Neely said, you can't own chords, nor the chromatic scale, nor guitar tremolo, nor the devil's triton, nor whatever that is in the foundation of music, or if it is a trend or a specific genre's feature. Coincidental ripping off. It does happen sometimes, especially if the new idea is based on an old common pattern, or you could hear the original idea and it's kept deep inside your brain. We may call it a unconscious plagiarism. And yeah, sometimes it's straightforward stealing. Alright, let's go through Metallica riffs that they supposedly stole and label them in the most relevant and reasonable way, based on what we know. Enjoy the discussion in the comments. This one indeed was some sort of a rip-off, or rather a conscious borrowing. According to Kirk Hammett, Cliff Burton, who wrote that lick in Master of Puppets, was really under the influence of David Bowie when they wrote the album. The ascending part was kept the original way, but the tail was phrased differently, so it received a new character and overall touch of Metallica, and nobody has sued Metallica for that. So I would call it an original variation. Same here, but with a little bit different story. Dave Mustaine, when he was in the band, played the lick as a joke, but Lars got excited and said that they're gonna use it. A new arrangement grew on top of that section, including a bass semi-solo, so it received a fresh sound.
And that's the difference between the Four Horsemen and the Mechanics, is the bastardized version of Lynyrd Skynyrd.
No lawsuit means that worked out a good way, and that true rock musicians prioritize music over money. So I label it as an original variation with a little bit of friendly mocking by Mustaine. I tend to think that's rather a coincidence, even though the lick and the accents are almost the same. But anyway, the end of the line still sucks. No. That's ridiculous. Those are open string or cowboy chords which are common as fuck. Yeah, the chord progression is similar, yet are in different keys and have different endings. And that roller coaster type of arpeggio cannot be trademarked. Iron Maiden did influence Metallica, so I won't deny that James may have taken Children of the Damned as a reference point when he got to write own ballads. And let's not forget about Judas Priest, Beyond the Realms of Death, and a whole bunch of Scorpion stuff. What are you saying? Listen further? Alright? Fair enough. The first lick sounds not so similar, but the second definitely does. Both songs have this swingy rhythm in middle tempo, which probably was a coincidence, since Beltos was built from the Cliff Burton's intro, which sounds nothing like Black Sabbath. But I imagine how it might have happened. Metallica started working on the song, they got into this rhythmic flow, and the Black Sabbath song might have emerged from their unconsciousness, and the muscle memory started to play something similar. Well, no wonder that Metallica imitated Black Sabbath, since it was one of the most favorite bands of Cliff and James. Plus, Metallica were young and yet under a heavy influence of the bands that shaped them. So I would rather call those inspired variations. Another example of Metallica Black Sabbath ripping off is Hole in the Sky, which sounds like Seek and Destroy's daddy. Speaking of Seek and Destroy, the fact that Venom might have stolen the lick from Saxon first means that that was a trendy speed metal lick back then. That was the new wave of British heavy metal, and they were all boiling in the same can. The riff is based on the chromatics, and we can find a ton of its variations. But in the case of Seek and Destroy, not only did Metallica play the very same riff, but they also borrowed the idea of those guitar fills in between. Though Metallica are reluctant to confirm this borrowing. But Lars Ulrich admitted that Seek and Destroy was heavily inspired by another song, Diamond Head's Dead Reckoning. I would not call it a straightforward plagiarism, but rather a borrowed riff or Metallica's homage to one of their favorite bands. We had discussed it last year, but in short, Kirk most likely did not steal the riff. Though he might have heard the song, it remained in his unconscious, and then reborn as that Enter Sandman lick. But to my ears, they don't even sound close enough as for such a bloated story. Regarding a similar structure of the intro, Metallica had written such escalating, clean to heavy intros before, for example in Bathory. This is part of the touch of Metallica to write such escalating songs, especially for songs that open the albums. So they might have felt that would work with Enter Sandman too, and they sure did. Well, it is a semi-confirmed rip-off. James Hetfield himself admitted that, let me read it, he commandeered a riff by a band that will remain nameless. Well, that's obviously the band called Bleak House, which is an underappreciated band of the new wave of British heavy metal, though they did not release much music to get a wider recognition. And you guess what did bring attention to them, especially after 1986? If they wanted to sue Metallica, if that seemed worth it, they would have done it. Moreover, they might have won the lawsuits, despite the fact that Metallica is like a big corporation. But what they actually get from the phenomenal success of Metallica being remembered and appreciated by the new generations of rock fans. And that seems to be enough for them, both financially and morally. Or look at it this way, those original songs have paved the way for those masterpieces of Metallica, and thus helped bring more good music to the world. Well, transforming music of others into something fresh is less of an evil, but what really pisses me off is when Metallica steal from themselves. Stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching. Keep this channel alive on Patreon, being metal, friends.